Hey guys, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. So this is my Siberian Elm Forest that I've been working on for about 2 or 3 years now. And I just wanted to give a quick update. I just trimmed it up and got it looking fairly decent. So thought I'd give you a quick look at it and discuss a couple of the big flaws with it and where I went right and where I went wrong and what my grand vision for the future is with this thing and why I love it so much. So follow me and let's take a closer look. Okay, so I'm back. So the Siberian Elm Forest, a couple of things about it. You'll notice right off the bat, there's only 3 of them in there. It started with 9. I'll post a link to the original video where I made this right here. So it started with 9 and 6 of them died off, left these 3. So that's the reason for the ginormous pot, which I'll zoom in here in a second and show you how big the pot is compared to the forest. And that's why there's only 3. So I have been trying to add more to it. As you'll see, this guy here was a failed cutting. All I've been doing in my effort to do that was just as I would take cuttings in the spring, I would take the cutting and stick it right in the pot. And they would sort of start to take, but then once the hotter summer months hit, they just die off. So that was a failed attempt. So what I'm doing now, I've got more cuttings that are starting to root. I'm gonna wait and let them really take root, and then in the spring I'm just gonna transplant them from the little pots that they're in into this. So that's my new plan for filling this thing out. And that's one of the first flaws I was gonna talk about, is just how big this pot is. The second flaw is that the trunks have no taper whatsoever. They're just long, straight, the exact same size, more or less, all the way up. And that's a problem. It's not the end of the world. It's fixable, but it's kind of a problem. So there's 2 main ways that I know of for fixing the taper issue. One way is to let some sacrificial branches grow down low. Like let's say little branches came out here. You just let them go for a few years, and wherever there's growth, it'll start to bulge out and get thick at those spots. So you let those branches grow out, and then after a few years, cut them off, leaving a larger base. That's one way. The other way is to do a trunk chop. So let's say, for example, you just chopped it right there, got rid of this. That would create taper. It would look a little bit abrupt that first year or so, but after a couple of years, it would start to smooth out a little bit, where it's thin at the top and then just gets thicker as it goes down. And I just picked that spot at random. You could do it anywhere. So trunk chopping is another way to do it. I haven't decided exactly which way I'm going to do it yet, but kind of leaning toward the trunk chop method. Let me go ahead and zoom in and give you a better look at the inside, and I'll talk a little bit more about these and why I love them so much. Okay, so here's a little bit closer look here. So as you can see, the pot is way too big for these 3 trees. It looks kind of ridiculous like that. Oops. Cameraman's in the way there. So yeah, the pot is ridiculously oversized for these 3 trees. Of course, you know the reason why, because the other ones died off, but still looks kind of crazy. So that's something that I'm going to be working on. But aside from that should be an easy fix, I think, or at least in theory. If it was so easy, I would have fixed it by now. But I think my new plan is going to work. So that I can fix soon enough. But otherwise, the taper issue is the one that's a little bit more, I wouldn't say I'm perplexed, but I'm just undecided. Because I really like the structure and just the way that they're flowing. Right here, they sort of, let me zoom it down. Sorry for the shaky camera here, but so One thing I kind of don't like is how this tree here leans outward to the left and this one outward to the right. I would like it if this was over a little more, but instead it kind of crisscrosses a little bit right there. You'll see. Yeah, so I don't love that. But aside from that, I do love just the way that the branches are developing and the style and shape. I love elms in general for a lot of reasons, because A, they do have a lot of character in that way. B, they have really small leaves. They're very fast and vigorous growers, so you can prune them quite hard several times. I mean, I probably prune this guy 4 or 5 times a growing season, and it responds awesome every time. So I love them for that reason, because of the fact that they're so fast growing and they respond so well. You can really style them quickly. You know, it doesn't take a long time to get a lot of style. These cuttings, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say these cuttings are 3 years old at most. So this whole thing developed from cuttings in 3 years. Now, they're not perfect, obviously, because of the taper and everything, but, you know, still, it's better than you could get on, say, a maple or even a ficus for the most part. I mean, it would be real hard to get this kind of look in 3 years with most trees. And again, just for the record, because I know people are going to leave comments like, oh, those things, their trunks aren't thick. Yeah, I know that. I know. I'm not saying they're show quality. I'm just saying for 3 years old, they're pretty cool. And they're just lots of fun. Because, you know, it's like, you know, say maple, for example, if you do a big cut, it might take a real long time if you're not happy with that cut and you got to fix it later, or you want to redo it or restyle it. These, not really. Within a couple of months, you can probably fix that. But I digress. I won't dive in too much more on that. I'll say that what I'm thinking of as far as the taper issue goes, I'm exploring a couple ideas. Let's talk about trunk chop. If I do a trunk chop, let's say, for example, let's look at this one. Let me zoom it down just a little. Hang on one second. Okay, so let's talk trunk chop for a second. We'll start with this guy. So this guy here, we've got this long, straight trunk with 3 branches coming off. So you really kind of have 3, I would say, really you have endless options for trunk chopping. But I'd say you got 3 main contenders. This one, or this one. So let's say I trunk chopped it right there. Or even air layered it right there, you know, and salvaged the rest of this as a cutting and replanted it. That would work. I would have to reduce this one in size a little bit, keep this bottom part, but probably get rid of this and let this be the new leader, so it grows out this way. Whereas if I did trunk chop there, it's kind of going off in that right, it would be a little goofy, I think. Just the way it already crisscrosses in a different direction, and then it crisscrosses and then crisscrosses back. I think that would look weird, so I probably won't do that. Same here. I thought about even doing a chop up here, like in this area. But that does not resolve the issue of the long, straight trunk. So I'm probably not going to do that. The more I'm looking at it and thinking about it, I'm thinking this piece right there makes the most sense. So doing it right there is probably what I'll do if I go that route. Now exploring that further, let's look at this back one here. I'm sorry that the camera is so shaky. My tripod is loose somewhere and it's a little wobbly. So the back one is where the majority, this is the biggest one, and this is where the majority of the growth is right now. Had a couple ideas there. I was thinking possibly right here behind this branch, like right there and right there. So chop here and chop there, whether by air layer or just simply chopping it. I would have to sort of develop this a little bit to come back out this way more, just to get some good movement. That's a pretty drastic cut. I mean, that's, you know, if I cut it here, that's all this. So it can be done and it wouldn't be the end of the world, especially if I air layered it and salvaged it. But I'm still a little weary and nervous about it. So I don't know if I'm leaning that direction either. Also, I could just trunk chop right here and let this grow out and let this be the main leader over on this side. And let it start to go in that direction. You know, these are just options. I'm sort of just talking hypotheticals. Would love to get your input, you know, any comments or input that you've got, would love to hear it. But that's kind of the way I'm leaning. If I do the trunk chop air layer option, just go right here and right here. So snip, snip. This is the new leader. It wouldn't take long at all to get all this back, I don't think. And then this guy, what do we do with this one? Well, in this scenario, if we've trunk chopped right here, and we've trunk chopped right here, and this is the new leader there. And really, we've got options. Could use something like this as the leader, or even this little guy way back here. So I could do something like that. But to be honest, I haven't put as much thought into this one as I did these two, for whatever reason. But that's the way I'm leaning, as opposed to doing, you know, sacrificial branches. I don't know why I'm leaning that way. I guess if nothing else, just because they are such fast growers, and it wouldn't take too long to regrow all of this again and just gain all this back. I mean, if I did this in 3 years and I did a trunk chop, I think I could regrow it all back within 3 years, all the ramification and everything. Probably even less, because, you know, the base would still be intact and roots would already be intact. When these started as cuttings, they were probably about maybe like this size. I actually can't remember now. Maybe more like this size. I have to watch that original video that I made when I put this forest together and see how big they were. I'm going to put a little clip of me putting this together a few years ago, just so you can see how they all started. So there it is in all its glory. That's my Siberian elm forest. I just wanted to make a quick update on it. I know I've sort of briefly shown this a couple of times here and there, just in general updates or maybe a little quick 2-minute update, but I've never really done a deep dive on this ever since I put it all together, which I believe was in 2019, and it's July 2021, so it might only be 2 years old. I can't remember now. But yeah, that's it in all of its glory. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got experience with Siberian elms, would love to hear about it. I don't see a lot of these as bonsai. I do see Peter Chan on Haran's Bonsai. He's got a bunch of these, so that was encouraging. So here I thought I was kind of weird for liking them, and then I saw that he had a bunch, and that was, yeah, a little encouraging. So, but if you've got experience or knowledge on them, would love to hear it. Leave it in the comments. So otherwise, please like and subscribe on the channel, and you can see updates on this and other videos and other trees. I've got tons of different, variety of trees, so you can see updates on all those too. You can see my successes and my failures, and hopefully you can learn from them. So thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your night.